Hello, sweethearts, and welcome to Doctor Who Reviews. I am in the host chair today, Freezing Inferno, that is me, and we are discussing the Ark, the monster, the organization known only as the Silence. So, hello, everybody. I am not alone, of course. I could ramble alone, but it's more fun to do it with friends. So, to my immediate virtual left, he has hope in this endless, bitter war against mirrors. It's Rainiac.
I see what you did there. I like that.
And to my virtual right, she has 75 tally marks all over her arms, one for every dollar she paid Colin Baker. It's Kat.
Yeah, this is true. And
Yes.
you are never going to let that go, are you?
No.
Why should he?
But I didn't get my revenge on Kat yet, but I did get a good one on Rainiac.
You said
How
revenge.
can you say that you're good friends if you don't spend $75 to have a very famous man berate you?
You say
That's
revenge,
true.
I say generosity, because what he's referring to is that parcel arrived for me in the mail yesterday. And after much toing and froing and a Twitter poll, I'm being serious here, I decided to open it. And inside was Kirsten Stone on DVD, lovely, a book about James Bond, and a bathroom mirror.
I sent him a mirror, kids.
To be honest, I'm surprised one of you hasn't done this sooner.
And if you would also like to send Rainiac a mirror, please do so at 555-86, not the actual address.
Thank you for that. But I have put a video up on my Twitter of me opening the parcel in question.
Which is hilarious because I can actually see you stop while examining the final part of the package.
Yeah.
Just stop in silence for a second, and as you see the tag, and you hold up the tag that says mirror. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
It's funny that I didn't open the final box, I think.
Well, you should show me what the mirror looks like.
Oh, I will. I will in due time.
I want to see the pretty mirror.
Because I'm quite traditional, I won't actually be using my gifts until after the day comes. But
fair enough. But I'm glad that we got a reaction. That was.
Oh yeah, as I say, very generous. You didn't have to.
Sometimes it's better to give than to receive. Because when you give, sometimes you receive the good reactions.
How generous? You didn't have to. No, really, you really didn't have to.
I thought you were going to say it's better to give than receive because you went for the tax service. But
yes, well, don't worry, Kat. Yours is still on the way.
I know, and I fear for my life.
Or at least your free space. Anyway, the Silence.
The Silence.
This is an arc that I remember kind of generally liking at the time. I don't know how you two felt about the Silence at the time. This is recent history. It's less than a decade ago.
I was just confused the entire time.
It was a very confusing arc. I seem to remember I liked it at the time.
I don't remember being actively confused. I do remember the oh holy shit moment of Impossible Astronaut, of course.
I think the part that confused me the most was, upon looking back at this, how big the arc was. Because
it basically is the entire Matt Smith years.
Yeah, it's the entire Matt Smith years, including everything that has to do with the crack and the Pandorica and everything.
Yeah.
And you don't realize the scope of it until you look back at it and see it's everything.
Yeah.
They really don't tie it in until the very, very end. The last possible second time of the Doctor, with a couple of lines here and there that just ties everything together and says, oh, by the way, what you're looking at now, all the arc stuff from the last 2 seasons has been this.
And doesn't tie it in very well, but we'll get to that when we reach Time of the Doctor.
Yes, well, it's funny because discussing the Silence is a weird paradox because you both have to and kind of don't have to consider Time of the Doctor in light of it because of the way it's structured. But I just want to mention my post I did that started this whole Silence obsession. I did it last summer, a post on my blog called Silence Will Fail, and I'll link that in the description if you want to read. But basically, the realization I came to that previous summer while rewatching the Matt Smith years is that the Silents are the biggest cosmic fuck-ups in all Doctor Who. Because when you think about it, their entire motivation was stop the Doctor from letting the Time Lords out and destroying the universe. And in going back in time to try and kill him before getting to Trenzalore, they not only cause those cracks, but also destroy the universe.
Oops.
Twice.
Oops.
Oops. 3 times if you count Big Finish, but the Big Finish is like... The Big Finish audios are weird, and we're not touching Big Finish in this podcast.
I mean, if it means we don't have to talk about those River Song audios with that, good.
Well, that's not involved in it. It's more like the restaurant at the end of the universe, but with Kovarian and co trying to kill the 5th Doctor.
All I'm saying is that if you haven't listened to the Diary of River Song Volume 3, please don't do that.
Well, they're not that bad. They're just weird.
I beg to differ.
And I would also just like to say that we're not technically going to cover the entire Matt Smith years, just because though this story does cover that, we're not going to cover all of that. However, if you want to, there is a great book called Return to the Light Tower that is out.
You laugh, but for all we know, I'm going to link her the podcast when we're done. Krista could cite us in Volume 2 when she talks about the Silence.
She could.
If you so choose, Krista, if we get anything particularly insightful that you like.
I think that's
cite us, my name is spelled Kat, K-A-T. You can just put these 2 as the other ones.
Right.
I mean, I think that's a fair exchange for 10%. Being cited in a book.
Oh, God. Well, so we're not, like Kat said, we're not covering the entire Matt Smith years, but I did get a list of episodes. I picked 5 for us to watch that form the core of the Silence arc, and then there are others that we should peek at. But I want to start again with Series 5, just the very brief little overview of the whole Cracks arc. The fact that this organization, the Silence, the Kovarian chapter, broke away from a church because they wanted to kill the Doctor before he gets to the planet Trenzalore and gets a giant standoff going. So they go back in time and decide, let's blow up this time machine. You know? You don't want a time machine hanging around like a Time Lord TARDIS hanging around anyway, so 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's blow that up. Good idea, right? Well, except for the fact that, like I said, blowing it up, A, creates the very crack that's down on Trenzalore, which causes the siege in the first place. Another predestination paradox, because Stephen Moffat, y'all. Yep. And B, it destroys the universe, and the universe has to be saved by the very person these people are trying to kill because they believe he's going to destroy the universe. Which is just funny, and that keeps happening. Same thing with Series 6, as we'll talk about. Universe is destroyed thanks to their influence in trying to kill the Doctor. The Doctor is the one who fixes it.
Yeah.
So it makes them out to be the most incompetent idiots alive, but you could argue they don't remember because of the universe resetting every time, but I would counter, even if they did, Madame Kovarian, the main head of the Silence, the Kovarian chapter, if you will, she's far too much of an arrogant character to accept what she's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
I feel. But all that is in the future. So we jump into the 2-part episode which introduces the Silence, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. Now, here's where the paradox comes in for me, because it's both fun to read the Silence in light of the revelations of Time of the Doctor, but also Moffat doesn't seem to have any of that in mind in 2011. No. He is making this up as he goes along, I feel, in a way.
It was kind of obvious that he was...
And that's not a criticism.
There may be a reason for it, but I'll get to that later. But
production was apparently like really hell. He was working on Sherlock at the same time, so
Yeah, that's the reason why.
yeah,
it's almost
okay.
like being the showrunner of 2 different popular BBC shows was a bad idea or something.
Yeah, you can see the pun unintended cracks start to form. But
with hindsight, maybe Mark Gatiss should have taken more of Sherlock.
But in Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon, we get not the silence chapter, but the actual like monster silence themselves.
Yeah.
So, like we did with the Weeping Angels, just a brief thing on where they came from. I mean, and here I think what Moffat had in mind was visually, obviously, the iconic painting, The Scream, which Big Finish, give me an audio involving the silence with Edvard Munch. Just give me a historical explaining that shit. Surprised they haven't done that yet. But he's pairing that, and he's obviously pairing it with conspiracy series stuff, like gray aliens with the big heads and that, and also the Men in Black because they have black suits. And the entire story is basically the silence or the goddamn Illuminati, you know? They've been running the show the entire goddamn time.
They're the Greys, aren't they, these aliens? They're like...
The Greys, the Men in Black. Yeah, they're sort of a hodgepodge.
And they're another one of Moffat's bodily function aliens where if you look at them, you're fine. If you look away, you instantly forget them.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the Weeping Angels again, but with a slightly different twist. The forgetting twist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which they ramp up slowly over Impossible.
And they do look very cool visually, I think, and particularly.
Oh, I love them. I love that little like. What do I want to call it? Reverb purr thing they do. The reverb growl.
Oh yeah, the sort of heavy breathing that they do as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really creepy sound.
I will say one thing about them though is that their design is really cool in the show. It does not work when they translate that into comic form.
Oh, what do we got?
That's loading. Hang on.
Guys?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't look quite as good. Yeah.
That's like, more so the Greys. Yeah.
What really gets me is you see that little line where their nose is supposed to be.
Yeah.
That looks like a smile.
Oh my god!
Yeah. The heads aren't quite big enough in that illustration, and
I can see what you mean. I didn't look into the silence in comics. I know I've read the 11th Doctor comics, and I know there's a silent that shows up at some point in them, but I couldn't tell you what happens there.
Oh god, the comics are wild.
They look like if the Beatles were extraterrestrials.
Well, there's 5 of them, though.
Oh god.
That's all right. We'll just crop Stevie Ray on the right here out of the picture, and there's 4 of them.
One of them is Yoko Ono.
Oh my god.
Which I recently heard one of her quote-unquote songs. Who let the cat yowl for like 5 hours?
Oh my god. We should also mention, given the conspiracy theory thing, that the arc involves who shot the Doctor. And, you know, last week we talked about An Unearthly Child, which aired 24 hours after President Kennedy was shot. Mm-hmm. Another massive conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. So I think we've done it again.
I think we kind of have, yeah.
Yeah. But that is the big inciting mystery over the Silence arc in Series 6 is, oh no, Doctor Who has been shot and killed. What is going on? Who's done this and how can we avert it? Which is funny because it's all very performative. We know that it's the Doctor in a robot suit, but there's also a silence watching just to make sure it all goes down. So
yeah, it's
all very performative when you think about it.
I do think they dropped the ball heavily on this story arc. I think the whole idea, the Doctor's been killed and now we're going to wind back and see how it happens, was a brilliant idea. In hindsight, it was never going to work because he can't die.
Yeah.
If he dies, the show stops.
Well, you know that, but
the Radio Times played a blinder.
How does he get out of it?
Years and years ago, before it first aired, the Radio Times played a blinder. They basically put a picture of the 4 of them, so River, the Doctor, Amy, and Rory. And they found out saying one of these 4 people will die in the opener. And it created a huge amount of publicity. And everyone's like, well, it can't be the Doctor. Oh my God, it's the Doctor.
But,
people thought it was River in like the ultimate twist, but no.
It is the how of how he gets out of it. You know he's going to die, of course. It's just common sense. But the how, well, that reveal we get at the end of the season, which maybe people felt a little underwhelmed by.
Yeah, by people you mean me.
Yeah, well. Anyway, there's actually some dialogue that hints at this, which makes me think Moffat had some of it planned. Like Amy's panicking when he's dead, and she's like, maybe he's a clone or a duplicate or something, which are both raised later in the series.
Yep.
Like with the Flesh and then with the Tesseract, which one of those is the way out.
Tesseract something else.
Oh yeah, Tesseract is from Marvel. MCU. I'm sorry. Tesselecta. Correct.
If he came back as a glowing cube, that would be...
That would be something.
That would be
something.
Thanos comes through and just steals the Pandorica and leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Just fits the whole thing into his gauntlet somehow.
Right. So what follows then is investigating the mystery of 1969 and this weird spacesuit kid, which creates some interesting inconsistencies with what Moffat will later come up with for the Silence.
Right.
Like, as conspiracy theory, they're everywhere, secretly controlling the planets. It makes sense, I guess, that they would influence humanity to go to the moon so they'd have a spacesuit, so they'd have something to put someone in to shoot the Doctor. As a weird, like, space church who just wants to kill him, it seems a little extra.
Yeah, and the only reason it's an astronaut rising out of a lake is because Stephen Moffat thought it would be a cool visual to have an astronaut rise out of a lake and shoot the Doctor dead. And in fairness, he was right.
Yeah.
It's shot wonderfully.
It does bring out a lot of questions, though. Like, why?
Well,
why?
I have a theory. Which, the Silence arc is basically, as I've said, my Pepe Sylvia moment, where I'm just on the wall with a conspiracy theory thing. It's all connected! It's all connected! So
I don't want to say it's aliens, but it's aliens.
So here's my thing. Now, as we've later learned in the series, the Doctor's death at Lake Silencio on April 22nd, 2011, being shot by this astronaut, is a fixed point in time. He has to be there, and that has to happen. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question. How do you create a fixed point in time to ensure that the Doctor will die?
That is something the Russians have been pondering for the past 20 years.
And I have a theory on this. In Wedding, the blue head of Dorium mentions that Lake Silencio is a still point in time, which means that it can easily be molded into a fixed point. So that explains why they picked that particular part, because they could easily mold it. But how do you make a fixed point in time? My theory, it goes back to this idea of the Silence as having secretly influenced humanity for billions of years and influenced them in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
I think that them doing that to build the entirety of human history upon their little scheme is creating the fixed point. It's sort of like making all of humanity's history into like a giant Jenga tower, a giant time Jenga tower, and propping everything up on that so it has to happen or reality will collapse.
I have a different theory.
Go on.
The theory is that something important happens there that affects the entire universe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's what creates a fixed point in time, is that there was something there that was so important or it was so catastrophic that it created a fixed point in time. In this case, the Doctor, quote-unquote, dying would be a huge thing because doesn't it basically start the whole Amy and Rory going on to figure out what's going on with the Silence thing?
Yeah.
I would say that's a pretty big event right there.
Mm-hmm. What's also funny to consider is that the whole idea is, the Silence influenced humanity to go to the moon, so they need a spacesuit. But America wasn't the only country going to the space race.
Nope.
So I just imagine the Silence in Russia.
Yeah.
Fucking around with people to be like, invent Sputnik.
Well, no, see, they tried that, but honestly, they were all so hopped up on vodka, they were just like, Dimitri, what are you doing?
If there are any Russians listening to this, I'd just like to apologise for the awful racial stereotypes perpetrated by my two co-hosts here.
If any Russians are listening for this, I am not apologizing for that awful Russian accent.
I will, I'm sorry. But anyway...
I'm joking, Jesus, calm down.
Okay.
So am I.
But we should also mention that power of the silence, which is not just that you forget them as soon as you see them, but that forgetful aura about them also lets them implant subliminal messages to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is how they influence humanity. And which also leads to their undoing in Day of the Moon.
Yeah, and this is a very strong two-part opener, actually. For all that we have nitpicks and problems with the overall arc, Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon is a really strong way to start a series.
It is. Even if this version of the silence has nothing to do with like space churches, I really like the conspiracy theory angle.
Yeah, and I will go on record and say that the resolution to the second episode is easily in the top 10 of the modern era. It's really good.
That's so good. Like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense unless you consider the conspiracy theory angle, like the opening to Day of the Moon, which is entirely just, we have to play along because these people control everything and we can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Which is just one big, long fake out.
And what's the line that One Silence has? We have ruled this planet since the wheel and the fire.
Yeah.
Chills.
Julian Glover would like a word with you.
That line just gave me chills. It's
good. And that's also the scene where we learn that these weird aliens are actually called the Silence, which is a big oh shit moment.
They managed to capture one. They managed to injure it somehow.
Canton shoots it.
Yep.
Yeah, Canton shoots it, but not fatally.
No.
They do a good bit where they sort of try to make it look like he's killed the Silence to intimidate the other Silences that are still around.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, he's just wounded it.
Yeah.
And then he's filming it on Amy's phone, I think it is, or
Amy's phone.
A modern phone, anyway. And then the Silence starts talking to the Doctor and says things like, "We have ruled mankind since the wheel and the fire. You should kill us all on sight, but you won't even remember that I've said this." Oops.
Good job, Barry Silent. Because that leads to the resolution of the episode where the Doctor puts it over moon landing footage and everyone goes apeshit and it drives the Silence off the planet.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory thwarted.
Well, let's be fair. A bunch of these Silents were in America at the time, and a bunch of these Silents were around people with a lot of guns at the time, and knowing America, they were all dead.
Well, that happens.
Yeah.
You see that happen because after the message is broadcast, they're just like standing around in a bar. Everyone just turns slowly and guns are pointed at them.
I just want to mention Big Finish real quick because I found out after I finished watching all the episodes, they have a Unit series box set with Kate Stewart and Osgood dealing with the Silence.
Yeah. And
I was speaking it on TARDIS Wiki, and apparently in one of the episodes, the Silence undo the kill us all on sight subliminal message, which helpfully explains away a plot hole I was going to bring up, which is why in Time of the Doctor, when Clara sees the Silence, does she not pick up the nearest blunt object and go, "Die, motherfucker, die"?
Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't watching TV that day.
Yeah.
Actually, when was Clara born?
86.
Yeah.
Why would she have seen this broadcast?
But it's
in school or something. I don't know.
They explain this in dialogue that when the message is given, because it's a subliminal message, it's going to go through to their ancestors, to their next generation as well.
Oh.
So he says, "You're going to, for 1,000 years, you're going to be ordering people to destroy you every day."
Which they do helpfully undo.
Well, I think we can explain that as Impossible Girl.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And also, I think...
So, honestly, I forgot about that generational thing.
I think...
So...
The series almost like reboots itself after a few years. And it's like things that have happened didn't happen or didn't happen in that order.
Like, just think if that wasn't true. Everyone that's in Doctor Who currently now was briefly immortal, according to that one Torchwood series.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone on Earth was like the Master for a hot minute.
And the only one that wasn't immortal was Jack.
Yeah. So there's some weird shit that you can get into if you get into
one
the
question though.
Go on.
Because the idea of the silence is that once you stop looking at them, you immediately forget them, right?
Yeah.
So Amy and Rory and the others, they put the markings on their skin in order to help them remember that they saw them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did they start remembering?
Good question.
The only thing I can think of is maybe that they were together, one of them looked at it, the other one looked away, and then, like, Rory told Amy, there's a creature here, it's called the Silence, make a mark on your hand, or whatever, and that will be how many you've seen.
Yeah, that works. That works.
But the idea is that they're supposed to be all separated at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Well, if you're looking at it and you make the tally mark, you remember long enough to make the tally mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you walk away from it, and now
you forget. Then you forget why you made the tally.
Yeah. So that's what I'm just wondering is how they remembered what the tally marks are for.
Maybe they wrote a note saying tally mark equals silence.
Which then begs the question: what the fuck is a silence?
Yeah.
Why did I do that?
True, but I do
like draw like a picture of the
again.
silence,
I do like the tally marks. They do a really neat trick with that actually, where I think it's Amy, isn't it? Where she checks her arm.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, okay, only a few." And then she checks her other arm; it's completely covered in it, and she screams.
Well, actually, I think. Well, you're thinking of Wedding. I think Matt Smith does a similar thing, but you are right. In Day of the Moon, they do that, and it is like the Weeping Angels, another camera trick thing, where like up to this point, you've been privy to seeing the silence when the characters do, but now you're in Amy's space where it's being edited out of her memories, so we're just jump cutting to mark.
Yeah.
So that's really creepy and effective.
I think we can kind of say that this is another one of those moments where instead of Chibnall doing it, this is Moffat doing interesting, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So interesting, but not good.
Well, I think this two-parter is quite strong.
I think it's a very strong two-parter.
No, that's perfectly fine. I love this two-parter. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I just mean specifically there are a lot of questions behind the tally marks that are sort of like fridge logic.
Right.
And once you start thinking about it, you realize it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Am I right in thinking at some point there's actually drawn Amy's face as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, she got him on her face too. Yeah.
Oh, that's when she screams.
Yeah, that's when she screams, yeah.
But at some point they must have washed it off her face because when she's seen again, like imprisoned by the silence, they're not there.
There's also the really good idea of like, the communicators in your hands, which is really creepy because you look at your hand and all of a sudden it's glowing and you're like, oh shit, I've seen one.
Yeah, there's some really good concepts actually in this.
Which, if you want to talk fridge logic, I got a question.
Yes.
When Amy gets kidnapped, how did they take that thing out of her hand?
A wizard did it.
A wizard did it. Yeah, there you go. Like, that's just the question I wrote down when I was talking about this episode.
Should we also mention her saying Madame Kavorian?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that happens here too, and it pops up in another couple episodes. That's like their half series arc is the eye patch lady that only Amy can see, and it's like, what's up with this? Ooh.
Yeah, a hatch slides out, and she's like, "No, I think she's just dreaming."
It shows up again in more episodes, like I think Curse of the Black Spot and the Flesh two-parter.
Yeah, it says it's in Curse of the Black Spot and one of the two Flesh episodes. It was maybe supposed to also be in The Doctor's Wife, but was ultimately cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
because there's so much in The Doctor's Wife already.
That happens in Day of the Moon. It is something that will come up later and is very important to
the whole thing. So I think we're good on Impossible discussion goes.
Yeah.
So conspiracy theory silence and plotting the moon landing, kid in a spacesuit who can regenerate.
Yeah, that was another shocking ending to that episode.
That was like a what the fuck, yeah. And an interesting start. We still don't know how the Doctor's going to get out of dying, but we have a season to worry about it.
And things kind of meander along without an arc until...
Well, before we get into the mid-season finale, I just want to briefly mention the fan theory regarding the Flesh two-parter, because the entire reason for doing the Flesh two-parter is to establish, Amy hasn't been here the entire time.
Yeah.
And she's been captured. But here's the thing. If you accept my weird theory that if you accept the fact that the Silents don't invent anything themselves and influence humanity to invent the stuff they need for their plan to kill the Doctor, who's to say they didn't influence the invention of the Flesh?
Oh my god!
Because they needed the way for them to kidnap Amy.
Okay, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah,
that could work.
While I'm at it, I want to mention another little fan theory I came up with. You remember? I know Rainiac you've seen, but do you remember the Sarah Jane Adventures episode with the 11th Doctor? Death of the Doctor, I think it's called. Right. So the Doctor is captured. Well, not really captured, but sort of stranded by the alien Shanchief, which are like a race of religious order vultures.
Yeah.
And he's off on this little adventure. He meets up with Sarah Jane and Joe again. But here's my theory: in the mid-season finale, we see the Kavarian chapter working with another religious order, the Headless Monks. And we also know in Death of the Doctor that Amy and Rory are on their honeymoon. And the next time we see the Doctor, Amy, and Rory, it's Flesh Amy. So my theory is that the Kavarian chapter are working with the Shanchief. They distract the Doctor on this little adventure. And while he's having it, they go to Amy's honeymoon, kidnap her, replace her with the Flesh, and there you go.
I can buy that. I think it's more likely that she is... I mean, they never actually answered the question, when is she switched?
That's my guess.
But the most likely time would be after she's encounters them and screams in Greystoke Hall.
Well, I don't know.
I do also buy your idea, and it does still work. You can still get a reading out of that, so yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think of it happening in the middle of the day of the moon. I just assumed it was since the start of season 6.
Well, sometimes the most simple explanation is actually the right one, but it's never actually confirmed. You can read into it however you like.
Right.
The important thing is that by the time she's rescued, she is Flesh.
And by the time they realize, she's given birth to her baby, Melody.
Yeah.
Which leads us nicely into A Good Man Goes to War.
Yeah. Straight off the heels, one of the cruelest tricks they play in the show's history with the Flesh Avatar. And
you want to talk about Amy and Rory getting
begging for her life.
Oh, God.
Flesh Amy begging for its life.
Oh, yeah.
The doctor saying, I'll be as humane as I can, but you need to stand away from her now, Rory. Oh, my God, that just hits you. And then, of course...
that is fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, you're ready to pop now, aren't you? Here it comes, push.
You say that's fucked up. How fucked up is watching a baby melt?
Yeah.
Yeah, watching a baby melt into white and Amy screaming.
Still not okay.
Stephen Moffat has some issues, man.
Yeah, Good Man Goes to War is you know how you call it? What did you say about the Impossible Astronaut 2-parter?
I said it was really good.
You
said it had a bunch of issues or something like that.
Oh yeah, well the arc.
Yeah, it had the issue of it has interesting parts, but they weren't necessarily good parts.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Good Man.
Yeah.
Good Man is something.
Good Man is hard to watch. It's a very well put together episode, but there are parts that are really hard to watch.
I remember watching on transmission and wondering, what the fuck people have against the Doctor? And now we know that it's just, he's down on a planet and he doesn't want the planet to burn. So these people are like, we're going to fucking kill him. He's a bastard.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what?
It's like, for people who might not have as good a memory or haven't watched this in a while, let me just explain to you why this is such a fucked up episode.
Go ahead.
So obviously we have the big battle where everybody's going to go rescue Amy or whatever the hell they're supposed to be doing. I honestly forget at this point. All I know is, imagine, if you will, that you've been wandering around with your friends, having fun, getting into trouble, going through everything having to do with like the angels and River Song and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you see the doctor die, and then it turns out he didn't actually die, so on and so forth. And then you find out all of that was a lie. Because one day you wake up, and you're 9 months pregnant, about to give birth.
Oh, yeah.
So then you are alone in a room with just a whole bunch of weird-ass people who want to use your baby for something. You finally give birth in one of the most traumatic experiences of your life. And then once you do that, you think you're finally safe. You're with your husband, your best friend, the doctor. I think River Song was there too. And
Not yet.
So
Not yet.
Either way, at some point River Song is there too. But you're just happy, you're safe, and then your baby melts in your arms, and you realize the horror that it's gone. And you will never see your baby again, as far as you know.
It's heavy shit.
It's fucked up. The fuck, Moffat.
Yeah, and
actually, I'm not even done yet, because remember in Day of the Moon where we had that little girl in the astronaut outfit?
Yeah.
Amy is the one who shot her.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't.
Amy shoots does not only do that. She shoots her own daughter. But also, her best friend Mel's is secretly her daughter as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She does miss her daughter at the end of Impossible Astronaut, because she says, "I didn't mean to shoot you. I'm glad I missed."
And this leads me into something. When I did that rewatch last summer, I had in the back of my mind the fact that in a different writer's hands, the Kavarian chapter could be like sympathetic antagonists. You probably know the old Star Trek saying, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Or the one,
yes. Yeah, or the one. You could do it like that, where they're like, we have to kill this doctor, one death to save the universe from the Time Lords. It sucks, but we have to do it. He has to die. I have to be the one to do it. You could really play with a sympathetic sort of villain if you did it like that.
Yeah.
Moffat doesn't do that. Kavari's not that. She's like, give me your baby, shit lord!
Yeah, Kavari, there's nothing redeeming about Kavarian whatsoever.
Absolutely not. I'll have another scene to talk about from another episode, but she is just bitter, hateful, spiteful, not just to the doctor, but to Amy. Like this innocent woman who didn't do anything but be his friend. And she puts her through all the agony you mentioned just to get back at him over the fact that he won't let another planet burn in the future.
And she revels in it, because she gets a great line when the fake baby is revealed.
Wakey.
No, it's not that. She's talking with him over the comm link, and she says,
"Oh yeah,
oh doctor, fooling you once was an honor, but fooling you twice, the same way, it's a privilege."
Like fuck. She's so bad.
She delivers that so well, too.
It's not even just what she does to Amy and the doctor. It's what she does to River, too.
Exactly. All of this to fuck with him.
Yeah.
And, let's put this into perspective, people. Because in the whole thing with the Impossible Astronaut, they use a robot suit, right? It's a robot suit that forces River to do this. Meaning that there was no reason for River Song to be in that outfit, other than for the fact of being cruel. Yeah, I guess I gather that, but also someone in the Eruditorm Press Discord that I'm in mentioned the fact that putting River in there, the woman who's supposed to marry the doctor, probably has to deal with building on the fixed point in time to make it stick. But it is cruel either way, no matter how you...
My reading of it is that they put her in the suit as a young girl to condition her to it.
Right. So, just a couple other things, skim through my notes on Good Man Goes to War. There's a really weird line where, you remember the big rally where Colonel Runaway is talking about the headless monks and revealing their hoods. He actually says that he can reveal it by the divine grant of the papal mainframe. And at that point, I just audibly went, wait, what? Because if you think ahead to time of the Doctor, these fuckers defected from the Babel mainframe.
Yeah.
So how is Tasha Lem going like, okay, yeah, you can take our hoods off, I don't care. So it's just bullshit.
Can I also say that anybody who uses TARDIS Wiki as their go-to, don't. Because for A Good Man Goes to War, this is what they say. It wouldn't be revealed until time of the Doctor that Madame Kavarian had not been truly villainous. The war she spoke of wasn't simply the Doctor's enemies trying to kill him like normal. The Kavarian chapter of the Papal mainframe was trying to kill him before he could even take part in the siege of Trenzlore in his personal future.
What the fuck?
I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I'm allergic to bullshit.
Villainous.
Not been truly fucking God.
I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm allergic to bullshit.
They suck. They really suck. But it is cathartic. And, well, the episode argues that it shouldn't be cathartic. But it is cathartic to see the Doctor and all his friends fuck with them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're taking them down. Which also begs the question, where the hell did he get a Jadoon army and a Silurian army?
Well, the Silurian army is Vastra.
That seems weird.
The Jadoon is, we need to give him some allies. We need to give him some tough allies that can take on the Silence.
It just seems weird to me that Vastra would just like have an entire batch of Silurians that she could just wake up and go, hey, come on, we're going to go into space and help the Doctor.
I mean, I love that you think that's weird, but you think nothing of the fact that there's a World War II fighter pilot and a pirate captain.
Well, I mean, we know that they came from Victory and Curse of the Black Spot, so we've seen them before.
We've seen the Silurians. They were in Cold Blood, and
they weren't exactly friendly with the Doctor at that time.
No. Well, maybe this was after they woke up after Cold Blood. Time travel, wibbly wobbly, etc., etc.
So, big revelations in this episode. Funny enough, there's no silence in there. Nope. Silence. Which made me confused for a moment. But then I realized, oh, right. They're all back in time in Earth, manipulating human history to get everything ready for Melody.
Yeah, and that's why Kavarian's not there in 1969.
Because that's where Kavarian goes that's pretty much where Kavarian goes as soon as this episode ends and she gets away. She'll go back in time to 1969.
I think right here we should also go ahead and put in our caveat that obviously this is mostly about the Silence as a monster, but when you talk about the Silence, there is no way to leave out this whole storyline.
That's why I said the monster. That's why I said the monster, the Ark, the organization. We're covering this. Damn thing. But yeah, so Melody, as it's revealed, has human Time Lord hybrid DNA. Ooh, there you go. River was the hybrid the entire time. Wait, wrong arc.
Oh, God. I've just noticed, with all these podcasts that we do and looking back at a previous series, Stephen Moffat kind of like takes his previous arc and then builds on it slightly.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
Then there's also River's speech when she shows up after Amy's baby fucking melts.
Oh my God.
And she's like, and this doesn't sit right with me, mostly because of what I know now, where it's like, you did this, Doctor. They were so afraid of you. They did all terrible stuff.
River is quite problematic in this episode.
Which again, I remind you, the reason they're trying to kill him is because he's protecting a planet of people from being burned alive.
Which was probably not written into the story yet.
Which probably wasn't written into the story, but retroactively, I mean, is like, River, come on.
Yeah. But maybe River didn't know about that.
And also, she could be still her programming and whatnot.
I mean, she also reveals that she's Amy and Rory's daughter, so, oh my God.
Oh my God!
That ending was huge at the time because it was a mid-series finale. Yeah. There was a break between that and the next episode of a few months, and it got people talking. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, we were. I remember being shocked by this. Mm-hmm.
I kind of guessed it. I didn't guess that the brilliant bit where it says the only water in the forest is the river. That's a hell of a line.
Which actually was a clue in the Doctor's.
Yes. So that all tied in beautifully.
But yeah, it also means that, like Kat said, Amy and Rory will never see their baby again because they're too tied up in timey-wimey shenanigans with River to ever change that. So, fuck.
River, or Melody to use her real name, does attempt to make up for this, however.
She's letting them know that at least their child isn't dead, and she turned out fine-ish.
This again raises problems because unless you take the reading that she's a sleeper agent and she's waiting to wake up and fulfill her mission, I suppose she kind of is. Why would the Silence just let her A, regenerate, and B, find a way to England, and C, basically live with Amy and Rory?
Who knows? That's a good question. But that does lead us into an episode that I reluctantly watched for the podcast, but I don't think you two did. We got to talk about Let's Kill Hitler.
I did. It's not as bad as you think it is.
It gets better as it goes along. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think once you sort of get rid of all the Nazi stuff, and Hitler,
Nazi stuff.
Hitler literally put into the cupboard, and then we don't see him again. Thank goodness.
Once you put Hitler in the cupboard, it gets better. Yes,
yeah.
But the things that are introduced in this episode are pretty big for the arc. And we should talk about Mel's, who is an abrupt insertion into the lives of Amy and Rory, their best friend, who we haven't seen until now, who pulls a gun on the Doctor, goes and has him take her back in time to kill Hitler, but gets shot herself and regenerates into Alex Kingston.
Yeah, who's still going by the name Melody Pond at this point.
And is programmed to kill the Doctor. Poisons him with a kiss after they have a little Bill and Ted standoff, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But,
at one point, her gun is swapped out for a banana.
Cute. That happens, and we also have the introduction of the Tesselecta, not the Tesseract.
Yeah, not a glowing cube.
Not a glowing cube that Tom Hiddleston wants, no. But this is a shape-shifting robot crewed by tiny people who time travel to find criminals of history and torture them with pain at the end of their timelines for justice or something.
They don't actively kill anybody. They are all about punishment and torture.
Well, I mean,
but they do
kill. They do kill that one officer.
They do leave one Nazi officer to his fate. Because there are antibodies, which are going to be revisited into the Dalek, of course, in a much nastier form, that will attack anyone who is not authorized to be in there. So they beam this. They take the shape of the form of the Nazi officer, and then they shrink him and put him inside the Tesselecta. They're like, look at this guy's record. Oh, he's a war criminal. Leave him to his fate, and he probably gets nuked by his antibodies.
Which, it is changing history, but it's killing a Nazi.
And nothing of value was lost.
Yeah. and then Rory and locks him in a cupboard.
Yeah.
Iconic.
And also the great bit where he gives a Hitler salute into a punch.
Oh, Rory, we love you. But other major revelations in this episode are the fact that we do learn that Lake Silencio 2011 is a fixed point in time, as we've said. And the big one is the info dump that the Silents aren't the species, but they're the religious movement.
Yeah.
Who are also part of the Academy of the Question.
Oh, there it is.
And this thing comes up, the first question, the oldest question in the universe, hidden in plain sight.
Doctor Who?
The Academy of the Question? That's actually in there?
That's actually in there. Go look at the transcript.
I must have tuned out for that bit, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So River, and this is the part of Let's Kill Hitler that's actually good. River gains empathy as the Doctor tries to save everyone, and learns how to become the river we know and love.
I have a theory about that.
Go ahead.
So, I completely forget. At this time, is she still under the control of the Silence, or is she has she escaped from?
She thinks she's escaped.
Okay.
She thinks she's escaped.
She thinks she's escaped.
By the way, at some point when she becomes Mel's, she decides to go and essentially grow up with her mother for quite some time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is a point where she says to Amy during Let's Kill Hitler that Amy got to raise her after all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So my theory is that because of Amy's kindness and compassion towards her and how maternal she was, then that sort of helped Mel's break out of the programming.
Yeah, I like that.
She
a combo effort between Amy.
Mother.
Okay, combo effort between Amy and the Doctor's compassion. I like
There
that.
is a really nice scene, actually, towards the end that breaks Melody out of her programming and makes her become River. Amy says, "Do you have to the Tesseract who's been abandoned by its crew at this point because Amy's turned the antibodies on them, but they all escaped to a spaceship. She's still got access somehow. She says to show me River's song, and it forms Melody. And Melody sees this and realizes, oh my god, I'm not a monster. I can do so much more."
Then she decides to give up her regeneration to save the Doctor. They take her to a space hospital in the 51st century, and she decides to become an archaeologist.
Yep. And then we don't see her again until the end of the penultimate episode, Closing Time, which is not worth covering, but her little bit at the end is.
Excuse you, I love Closing Time.
You're welcome to that opinion, but the scene at the end...
Bring back the Cybermats. It's fantastic.
Yeah, all right. But the scene at the end of that episode then, so she's at her university, and then who's she walking on her but Madame Kavarian. Boo, hiss.
And this is another scene that establishes that, Kavarian's not a sympathetic antagonist in any way.
She's evil personified.
She is spiteful, hateful. She's like, you never escaped us. We're going to put you in the spacesuit and you're going to kill the Doctor.
There's a line that Kavarian gives, which gives me chills. It's like, you never really escaped us, Melody Pond. We were always coming for you. And she refers to the Silence as her owners or her jailers.
Well, I mean, come on, guys. We went over this already. She has not been truly villainous.
Don't make me sneeze again, please.
Christ's sakes. Well, that's how we end Closing Time. They put her in the spacesuit. We see her at the bottom of the lake. Oh shit, Doctor Who's going to die.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Wedding of River Song. And
oh wow! So this is an episode I've definitely changed my opinion on.
Interesting.
When it first aired, I thought, well, that's kind of a cop out and not a very good season finale. And then years later, I watched it again. Thought, no, it really isn't a good series finale. Watched it again this year, and I actually really dig it for the most part.
I like it. I definitely like it.
The idea of time blending in on itself is brilliant.
It's
an absolutely
alternate universe story.
Yeah. We get to see Winston Churchill say, "A record, good God, man, you never heard of downloads?"
There's pterodactyls in Hyde Park. Charles Dickens is on the TV.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Everything is all messed up. And
time is broken, and it's always 5:02 p.m., April 22nd, 2011, the moment that the Doctor is supposed to die.
This is also an absolute tour de force for Amy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really strong episode for Amy because they do a wonderful fake out about 20 minutes in where the Doctor starts by telling his story to Churchill. And the story ends with River refusing to kill him. So they're on the banks of Lake Silencio. She aims her gun and then she just discharges the power somehow. And that messes everything up because she's now rewritten a fixed point in time and you can't do that. So at that point...
time breaks!
At that point, though, a smoke grenade rolls into the room. The Silence are surrounding the Doctor. The aliens, not the organisation, but the big-headed aliens are surrounding the Doctor. Churchill's got his gun out to shoot them. And then a smoke grenade blows up. And a woman walks into the room with soldiers, and they're told to keep an eye on the Silence at all times, so they can't do anything. And the woman is Amy, and she's wearing an eye patch.
Oh no, we're in Inferno again.
And when you first watch this, you think, oh my god, has she turned evil?
No, she's not truly villainous.
And no, she really isn't truly villainous. But she, god damn it. But she...
Actually, Rain, can I do a thing here?
You can.
I just gotta scroll back through my, DMs with Krista. We were talking about this the other day. I mentioned the fact that in the time of the Doctor, it's 300 years that passed between Matt Smith staying and the whole exposition of, oh, by the way, the Kavarian chapter broke away. Which means that Kavarian probably grew up all her life knowing the Trenzalore siege. And then when I raised that to Krista, she said, yeah, maybe she did, but if so, she could be, and I'm using her words, not mine, a twisted mirror of Amy.
Yeah. No, I will grant you that. I think Kavarian is what Amy could have been. Or what River could have been. And
when she said that, I just responded, hell, they even play with that. And I linked her the exact image you were talking about.
Yeah.
The iDrive on. So that's a Doctor Who mirror alert. Woo.
Yes, it is, but I do still love that scene, and Karen Gillan plays it really well because she's playing it like really cold and emotionless. Mm-hmm. She does a James Bond call out at some point, which...
So, let's see here. So,
and she calls herself Amelia Pond, not Amy.
Oh,
just to really play the idea that this is a different person.
Yep.
So,
but within 2 minutes, it's revealed that actually she remembers exactly who he is, and she's not turned nasty. She's saving him, and she's actually working for River.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this timeline, I can call it timeline, can't I? Yeah, in this altered timeline, she's not together with Rory. She doesn't know that River is her daughter. Oh, she does. No, she does. She does. No, she's not together with Rory, but she does know that River is her daughter because that's the whole thing with her and Kavarian at the end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's also some arc stuff that happens while the Doctor's getting to the story point where he's got Dorian Maldivar's head.
Oh my goodness!
The headless monk keep the heads. It's a funny comedy duo, but Dorian does mention the specific prophecy. He also says that the Silents call themselves Sentinels of History, which makes sense with the conspiracy theory idea of we control the wheel and fire.
Yeah.
But he also mentions the prophecy at the fields of Trenzalore on the fall of the where nothing can... Well, he says it in more detail, but where nobody can lie, a question will be asked, and it can never be answered.
Yeah.
And silence must fall, which is what the Kavarian chapter are determined to try and do. Make the Doctor silent.
Apart from the fact that the question is asked in the first episode of Series 6 and not answered. Oops.
Yeah, they keep saying it. It is hidden.
In fairness,
Doctor Who.
They don't say it to the Doctor himself, so it's not breaking the rules technically, but still.
Right. So, what else have we got here? We got that other half of the episode where Amy and River in Area 52, which is a pyramid, they've got a bunch of Silence captured. They also have Kavarian captured, where she has the wonderful line, "Oh, why couldn't you just be a good boy and die?"
Yeah.
And the Doctor just responded, "I did my best. I showed up."
We've also got the Silence, again, the monster, not the organisation, trapped in these glass cages.
Trapped.
Yeah, except, again, Kavarian gets a great line. She said, how many Silence have you got are trapped here? None. They're not trapped.
And what's interesting here is, well, they break out and they start electrocuting everybody, not just with their electric powers, but also the iDrives, which we should mention the iDrive. It projects an image of the Silence into your memory cortex so you can remember them.
Yeah, another really nice concept.
Yep.
Yeah, but those start electrocuting people too, which is interesting. Because who's doing it? It's obviously like some power of the Silence because it's electricity-based, I would say, and they shoot lightning, so that makes sense. But they do it to Kavarian too.
Yes, they do.
So... that's interesting, the fact that she's outlived her usefulness.
Well, that could be that maybe they can't control which iDrive gets fried. So they've got to start attacking them all. But yeah, she's
maybe.
talented in
I
usefulness.
like.
So Kavori gets some great dialogue in all her episodes, but particularly in this one.
Yeah.
This is her last appearance.
The bit where she says, "And you're all wearing eye dries based on mine." Oops. And then commences the electrocution.
And then that fucking scene where...
It's too bad she was not truly villainous.
Which...
You're never going to drop that, are you?
No, she shouldn't drop it.
It's ridiculous.
It's fucking stupid, and you shouldn't drop it.
Not truly villainous, my left...
Remind me to put that in the description for this podcast.
Will do. But we should talk about the scene where Amy kills her.
Yeah, straight out kills her. So,
holy fuck.
I said this was one of Amy's stronger episodes, and I stand by this.
It's fucked up, and she regrets it after the fact, but, you know.
Well, it never happened.
Like the musical said, she had it coming.
She only had herself to blame.
I love you two to refer to that. My God.
Right. So the main driving force behind the latter half is that time is breaking in half, but it can be repaired if the Doctor much longer repair time. But doing so will mean that the Doctor gets shot and killed. River's not willing to do that. The Doctor's like, use your head. The entire universe will die if you don't.
Yeah.
But they go up to the top of a pyramid and show him that all sorts of people from across the universe are answering a call for help to let him know that, yeah, you're not a bastard. You're a force for good in the universe, which it's a nice cap off to the
What's the line she
says?
You've saved so many people. Why do you not think they would return the favor or something along those lines?
Yeah. It's a nice cap to this series because Good Man Goes to War had the whole, the Doctor's a blood-soaked warrior. He's like, and this is why these people want to kill him, sort of thing. And you also have the latter half of 6, where kind of a bastard in episodes like The Waited.
Yeah.
So they've been undercutting the whole, the Doctor could be a real bastard. But in the end, they're like, no, you're a force for good. People love you, and you deserve to live. You don't deserve to die. But then we get the titular wedding of River's song, which is nice.
Yeah.
He whispers something there, and that something was look in my eye because he was in a Tessellect.
This is where the whole thing falls apart, if I may go off on one.
I just want to say one thing beforehand, a funny headcanon I didn't think of till now. That Tesselecta in Let's Kill Hitler was manned by an entire crew, right?
Yeah.
I just imagine they're still in there for the entirety of Wedding.
No, they're not. So,
I just wanted to...
The Tessellect shows up again in the first third of the Wedding of River song.
Yeah, it does.
And it's in the guise of an envoy for the Silence who's been dead for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon Van der Loor or something like that. Who he is not important.
They ask him if he wants help, and he leaves, and then he's like, "Actually," at the end of the episode,
they've got some messages from him to deliver, and they say, "Whatever you think of us, we are all about law and order and justice being done, and you are the same as us. We will, of course, deliver your messages with pleasure." And then they help him basically fake his own death.
Yep.
But there was a much better way of him doing it, and they teased this in the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. The Flesh Doctor.
You'd rather it have been a Flesh Doctor, okay?
I'm not sure I'd rather it would have been, but the fact that's never brought up again, it just seems like such a cop-out.
Well, I'd argue it's a misdirection.
I think it had to be this way, Radiac. And the reason I say that is because the whole fixed timeline meant that the Doctor had to be there. If he was a Flesh Doctor, then technically he would not have to be there in order to control the Flesh person. And that might ruin things for the fixed timeline to make it worse.
Yeah.
By being there in the Tesselecta, he was there. It's just someone else technically died for him.
I would accept that. Maybe there wasn't another way that you could have ended it, and maybe he wrote himself into a corner, Stephen Moffat. But I still love the episode. I love Amy and River in it throughout. There's some really nice concepts and some really nice ideas. The whole meshing of history. So as a whole, I do really like the Wailing in the River song now. It's
I'm
better
glad
than
you came-
Inferno.
It is better than Inferno. Isn't that right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay, Rainiac. Inferno's in the past, where it's currently being eaten by Langoliers.
I didn't even think of bringing them up again this time.
You lie.
I swear to God. But I just want to say I find the headcanon the Tesselecta just because they can be like, what the fuck? What? There's mammoths and shit? Is that Winston Churchill? What the fuck did you do? And then later, like, so are we all married to River Song now?
Polygamy. It's cool, I guess.
Oh,
that's
God.
even funnier because there are female members of that crew as well. So
hey, don't knock it till you try it.
I'm not, but
anyway, yeah. So I like Kat said, the clever tricking the fixed point, where it's like the Doctor was there and died, but he didn't die because he's in a robot suit.
And
so,
that leads us neatly into their final appearance. Then,
well, we do need to mention the wonderful scene at the end. The question is, Doctor who?
Yeah.
Doctor who?
Simon Fisher Becker earns his money with this one scene.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's where all the money went.
From there, we don't hear from the Silence for a year and change.
Yeah.
As we instead basically focus on the Impossible Girl arc, which does tie into the Silence arc again when we hit the name of the Doctor in a big way.
Yeah.
Because we end up on Trenzalore and find out that Trenzalore...
Time of the Doctor.
No, name.
Oh, no, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. We end up on Trenzalore, and we do find out this is, like we did with Angels Take Manhattan, this is the Doctor's tombstone, if you will.
Yep.
The Doctor will end up here and will die.
Except not really, but...
Except not really, but we'll get into that when we get into time. But yeah, so that ties into Impossible Girl stuff, but it also makes it funny because according to this timeline, the Kavarian chapter didn't need to do shit except wait.
And this is where I think, at this point, I should bring up a behind-the-scenes thing. So,
go ahead.
The Time of the Doctor, for me, it's a really good episode. It's a really good send-off for Matt Smith. But the art stuff they put in it feels kind of rushed in the last minute. And it might have been, because they were preparing for an 8th series with Matt Smith in it. His 4th series.
Really?
And then he did a complete U-turn and said, I'm leaving the show.
Okay.
Now, whether or not it was a false rumour and he was always going to leave after Series 7 and after the 50th anniversary, I don't know. I'm not privy to that information. But if he did do an about turn, like David Tennant did an about turn, that might explain why everything was so crowbarred in, because maybe they were planning to seed it throughout Series 8.
Maybe. Either way, yeah, what we get is a series of basically lines saying, oh, by the way, Kavarian, she was one of us, she did...
Yeah.
Which rubs a lot of people the wrong way, I think. I don't recall how we felt at the time.
I don't think we liked it very much. Again, it's telling, not showing.
True.
And this is why I think it was crowbarred in at the last minute.
Which I understand. And, I can deal with it now because I get it. Like, I've had 7 years to deal with it and think on it. And
I think he was always planning to end Matt Smith's arc on Matt Smith's time in the TARDIS on Trenzalore. Always.
So this is Time of the Doctor, Matt Smith's final episode, is actually the origin point for the conflict we've been seeing throughout Series 5 and 6. Because Predestination Paradox is Moffat,
Yeah.
So we're exploring a mysterious planet that is sending out a signal. The Doctor gets help from the Papal Mainframe, which is a church in space, who actually use the Silence as confessional priests, the idea being that you forget what you confess to them, which that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like you go to the confessional and you're like, oh, and die. bread today. And you leave and you come back the next day. Oh, Father, I sinned. I stole a loaf of bread yesterday.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
They play it for laughs, which is the worst thing.
If it's a joke, I get it, but okay.
It is used as a joke because, again, telling, not showing. Well, kind of both, actually.
Another joke that's weird is the naked church idea.
Oh.
Like, what? What the fuck?
Well, this was done to sort of explain away Matt Smith's hair.
Matt Smith's bald cap. Okay,
because he does get his hair shaved between Day of the Doctor filming and Time of the Doctor filming.
Right, okay. That's fine.
Why you had to then have the naked thing, but that's why the key's in his quiff, in his wig.
Right, okay. I can buy that, but also it makes everything with Kavarium weird now, because, like, do I even need to say it?
No, you don't.
Let's move on, okay. Tasha Lem, the Mother Superior of Papal, apparently in an earlier draft was supposed to be just River?
That wouldn't have worked.
No,
it wouldn't have worked. I can't see how it would work.
Why the heck would River want to be head of the church that sent him to kill the Doctor in the first place?
Yeah.
I don't know how it could have worked. Someone asked me.
I could see it as kind of like I want to lead this church in a new direction away from people like her, but also I wouldn't want anything to do with the church at all.
That being said, if it was supposed to be originally River, that does explain some inconsistency with Tasha Lem, because one of Moffat's long-standing criticisms was he always writes the same female character.
Right.
I mean, he does, but okay.
Flirty woman.
Yeah,
type.
Because it's established that Tasha Lem has had adventures with the Doctor in the past. She can fly the TARDIS. That comes out of nowhere. And there's a long-standing flirtation going on between them. So I can buy this was supposed to be River.
Basically, you know how in all of Quentin Tarantino's films there's usually something to do with his foot fetish? Moffat has a doctor fetish.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So there's always some lady macking up on him.
So, as we find out through the episode, this planet has a town called Christmas, where there's a truth field and you can't lie. There's also one of the leftover cracks in time that Kavarian caused. Now, the other end is Gallifrey, which was saved in the previous episode.
She doesn't cause this particular crack, no.
No, yes, she does.
No, because the Time Lords can control it. They move it back and forth.
Oh. I figured she did. That was the whole idea of the fact that they've caused the very cracks in time that they're trying to stop.
Yeah, it could be, but I always thought that they used a separate crack to transmit the message. But yeah, all right.
I think they tried to crack through in a different...
The idea is that, if I remember this correctly, and also using a little bit of wiki knowledge, is that the Cylons are the ones who create the cracks from when the TARDIS blew up in the Big Bang episode. When that happened, the Time Lords used the cracks in order to pass the message through.
Yeah.
There's also a bit that completely undermines the threat of the silence.
What's that?
The Daleks taking them over.
Yeah.
Well, that's the papal mainframe.
Well, the big-headed silence.
Yeah.
The genetically modified priests.
I mean, they are human. I mean, if you... As we established in the Silent Daleks, all you need is like Dalek nanomachines to infect something.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the clerics and the weird women that serve Tasha Lem.
One of them, I got to mention, I finished the episode and looked at the credits, and one of these people, the clerics that serve Tasha Lem, is credited as Colonel Mean.
Yeah. It's not even the first time they played with that word, because as far back as 2005, in the very second story of Christopher Eccleston's time as the Doctor, he faces a baddie called the Adherents of the Repeated Meme.
Right.
Now, it turns out they're actually just androids working for Cassandra to take the suspicion away from her, but still.
Anyway. So, point is, the Time Lords are on the other side of this crack. They want to come through, so they ask the question of the Doctor, Doctor Who? And if he answers it, they can come through, and there's a shitload of Daleks and other people up there, and it'll kickstart the Second Time War.
Yeah.
So we hit the siege of Trenzalore. The Doctor can't say answer the question without unleashing all hell, and he can't leave, or they'll burn the planet up and destroy the crack and keep them and get rid of the Time Lords and keep them forever coming back.
Except
so we begin the siege of Trenzalore.
If he left, right, he can't speak his name. There's no reason to have a siege.
Yeah.
And they're
not ensuring that the message can no longer get through.
They're not presented as evil, so I don't think they would have burned the town for nothing.
He says that they would, and I believe him.
Yeah.
Well, all right, but
also, funnily enough, if he had just left, then that would have prevented everything that happened in the Timeless Child.
Another good reason for him to have done it. Yeah.
Well, he didn't, and we get Tasha Lem saying that the papal mainframe has an unscheduled phase change, devoting itself to the edict that silence must fall.
Yeah. It's a really good story, I think, even with its weaknesses.
Yeah.
And even the fact it does the silence dirty.
That's basically the end of the involvement with the silence arc, per se.
And at least their final scene is really quite good.
They actually team him up with the Doctor.
It's Tasha Lem narrating about those two old enemies, the Doctor and the Silence, teaming up.
The rest of the thing is basically dealing with the fact that the Doctor's on his last regeneration, which is interesting because you got to think of, well, when was fate changed from Name of the Doctor to Time of the Doctor here, where they were saved? I think it has something to do with Clara.
Yeah, it could be.
Which, if you recall, Missy put them together. So I'd say Missy is the true motivator behind the entire arc there.
Oh my God.
Where she's like, I'm going to save my friend from idiot.
Oh my God. I never thought of it like that.
Have an impossible girl to save your life, honey. Love you.
Misty, the true hero series.
I think that will
well, Missy's
basically
the hero and everything for me, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that hits the end of the silence. We never see Kavarian or them again.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I always wondered what happened to Kavarian after the plan failed and the Doctor lived on, but we can save that for Big Finish or fanfic thing.
Yeah. Insert that clip of the American Dead intro where he just says good and gets back into bed.
Good. So, final thoughts, I guess?
I have a final thought.
Of what, specifically?
Everything.
Everything? Oh.
Yeah.
What? Like?
Honestly, I don't mind when there's an arc that could take the entire series of a specific Doctor. I'm fine with that. I'm just not fine with the fact that it was such a weak arc, essentially.
Yeah.
And then
it is a very strange arc, but Moffat doesn't go for conventional.
It's not even that, though. It's the fact that it was so convoluted in everything that it did. It's like, so Kavarian wants to stop the Doctor from speaking his name as the answer to the question of Doctor Who. Because if he speaks his name at Trenzalore, then the Time Lords will come back and, in theory, the war will start all over again.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to be there and want to stop the Time Lords.
But it's convoluted, so it's Stephen Moffat to a T, isn't it?
Yeah, sadly. And this is one of the problems that I have with the man, is that it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's like, what I just explained right there is all you needed. And then we have, okay, so there's all these cracks through time from when this, when the TARDIS exploded, and that caused the Doctor to meet Amy, and then they started talking about the cracks, and then all this stuff happened where the cracks kept doing stuff, and he kept trying to figure out the mystery, and then the TARDIS actually exploded, but it didn't actually explode because that would have broken time, and it came back together, and there was the Pandorica stuff, and then there was all this stuff with, Rory and Amy deciding to bang on the TARDIS, and then all of a sudden now Melody has these time powers, but before she was born, Amy was kidnapped and turned into a flesh person, and the flesh person died, and then Amy was giving birth, and then all of a sudden Melody's gone, and then there was all the river stuff. It's like, why does it have to be so complicated?
Predestination paradoxes, Moffat.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's the fact that it's so simple. Madame Kavarian was afraid of the Time War starting up again, so she decided to stop the Doctor.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
And that's what we got, eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
But we took so many turns in the road to get there, I think is Kat's point.
Mm-hmm. And then it gets to this point where you do get to Time of the Doctor, and then all of a sudden now... This is the part that confused me, was because the arc had gone on for so long, and then you had the Impossible Girl stuff in between, I was so confused as to why the Silents were there, because I completely forgot that they were part of the church itself.
Right.
So
right, okay.
when we were there meeting, whatever her name was before she got turned into a Dalek, I was just like, why are they here? Why are they good guys now? Why are we going along with them? And then when Daleks came up, it was just like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll never know.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. The fact that it took so long, left certain points of the arc out of your mind and let them fall out of memory, so that gets time to the Doctor, you're confused.
If they had kept that up, where they kept reminding us that the cracks were still technically a thing, because they were. Because that's the whole reason that the crack was there in Time of the Doctor. If they had kept that up, and, every once in a while the Doctor saw one, it was just like, oh, gotta close that, gotta deal with that.
Yeah.
Really, actually, it's like almost 2 years between wedding and time. So that is a long time to not be reminded of the arc.
Resolve a plot, like a bunch of plot points.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put it with something as complicated as the Impossible Girl as well, which that even continued after this, technically.
Yeah, that fed into Series 8 too, a little bit. Yeah.
So it's like, I see what he was trying to go for. He wanted a big, vast arc that would, pretty much end when, the Christmas episode would happen. That I'm fine with that. He wanted to bring the Time Lords back. That's his main goal, I feel. Is that he wanted to bring the Time Lords back, but you can't just bring the Time Lords back. And that's why we had the Day of the Doctor, the Time of the Doctor, so on. And I get that. But the whole story of the Silence in itself is just too convoluted. It took too long. And there was too much time between the last time we saw the Silence to the Time of the Doctor.
They took so long, they got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
Well, I don't know how I don't really remember how I felt at the time, because I wasn't writing things down back then. But in retrospect, looking back on it, I really like this arc. It fascinates me because there's just enough to make you theorize about it, but they also explain just enough that you're invested. So it's the perfect mix of interesting plot hooks and ambiguity for me personally. So I remember vividly watching through it, having my headcanons, imaginations about where it was going to go. I don't think I expected all of them. Time of the Doctor was, shall we say, rushed in its by the way explanation. Could have used a bit more reminding, maybe, but that would also fucked up the Impossible arc. There's not really a good answer to how much done it better, I think, without sacrificing something else.
Yeah.
As a whole, it's a fascinating arc to me that I still think about constantly. And I'm talking to people like Krista about other folks. We did a podcast about it, so invested in this shit. So I really love it. God bless it. Even if Moffat changed his ideas for it as he went along. Conspiracy theory becomes space church, becomes all this other stuff. So it's wild, but it lives in my head rent-free forever. So, Rainiac, what did you think?
Well, not for the first time. I'm somewhat in the middle here.
Okay.
I really like the arc. up to the end of the Wedding of River Song.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Time of the Doctor does the silence very dirty. And they almost didn't need to be in it as much as in the way that they were. And they were almost just brushed aside. Oh, the Daleks are the big threat now. Sorry, guys. But up to that point, it's really intriguing. It is very complicated, perhaps overly complicated. But that's just Stephen Moffat's thing.
That's Moffat.
Yeah, he likes to make things as convoluted as possible, and sometimes it actually works. The actual monster is really a really good design. We didn't talk about that scene in The Impossible Astronaut where they kill that poor lady in the bathroom.
Oh, God, we didn't. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
And they do it just because they can. It doesn't serve any of their plans.
It really doesn't, no.
That one side is just sadistic.
Again, thinking of the fact that they're doing this to save the universe, but they don't care about one person. They're just like, well, I can kill you just because I
could have also done it to sort of intimidate Amy and show her what the heck she's up against.
Yeah, true too.
Knowing full well she'll forget it, and, again, sadistic. But we do get some great moments at it. We get A Good Man Goes to War. We get that amazing reveal about Melody Pondy's River Song. We get Amy's, I can't praise this enough, Amy's spectacular turn in The Wedding of River Song. And that line was, the Doctor is many things, but you know what he isn't? Not here. And then she just leaves the eye patch on her to be killed.
God.
It gives me chills to this day. The organisation, Kavarian is a great villain, but she's not villainous. I'm sorry, TARDIS Wikia, you don't know what you're talking about.
Fuck's sakes.
She is irredeemable, and she gets her comeuppance, although it never happens, so she is still, as far as we know, she is still alive.
Who knows?
She dies in the aborted timeline.
But, she's probably still out there, of course.
But it's an aborted timeline.
Yeah, so, she's still alive.
Yeah, I mean, the continuity of the show is an absolute mess anyway, but...
who knows? But anyway,
I
yeah.
do have one request. Can we not use the word aborted in a thing where a baby looks...
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Well, I'm only quoting from the show itself, but fair enough.
I know, but still...
Alternate timeline.
A cancelled timeline.
Thank you.
A timeline that never was.
I don't want to start that.
So, is that all?
I think so, yeah. I think the potential of the arc is greater than what we actually got. But what we got was still pretty good.
And the potential I can still think about. So, I've got some things I'd like to plug, and no, it's not what you're thinking, but you should check that out too. Another book. Elizabeth Sandifer has released TARDIS Eruditorum Volume 7, which is a project covering the McCoy years, which is the televised stories and then the novel series I did in the 90s beyond. It's come out for general audiences. I backed it, so I got to read it in July. It's a very good book. And if you like Doctor Who in the McCoy era, you should definitely check it out. So I'll have a link down below for you there. And also I'd like to plug...
I have one question about that book before you move on.
Go on.
Does it discuss the fact that the 6th and 7th Doctors had a friggin' penguin as a companion?
Oh, Frobisher.
Frobisher.
I think the sixth Doctor covers one. Yes.
Because I just found that out and nobody told me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, another thing I'd like to announce is that I'm rivaling our Twitch superstar because it's the holiday season and I'm doing a marathon of streaming from the 12th to the 23rd, Frezno X, where I play 12 games selected by my community. It's an eclectic mix, so they'll be played on the evenings from the 12th to the 23rd, twitch.tv/freezinginferno. Hop on in, say hi, talk about mirrors. Battletoads. Battletoads is not on the list.
Thank goodness.
Got any of them there, Battletoads?
I will throw a link to that in the description if you remind me after we've finished up here.
But other than that, I think we're ready for next time.
We are.
Which I think you're up, Reniac?
Well, here's the thing. It's my choice next week, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, technically it's not.
Oh, we're doing a vote.
No vote. No, the story has been chosen beforehand. Just not by me.
Okay.
So story time. So a few days ago, a mutual friend of ours, Christina, better known as Mr. Punk, went into the hospital.
Oh.
And they're home now and they're recovering.
Yeah.
But they are a big fan of Peter Davison.
Okay.
And so I thought it'd be a nice idea to message Christina and get them to pick our next story for next week.
Oh.
And that's exactly what they've done.
That's sweet.
All right, what they pick?
So next time, courtesy of both myself and Christina, Doctor Who Reviews covers Terminus.
Ooh!
I know nothing about this.
This is the one before Enlightenment.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So we've got Turlo, we've got Nissa and Tegan and the Doctor.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I've only seen this one once, so...
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh, this will be fun. This will be fun. Thank you, Christina. I hope you're feeling better. Much love to you.
Yep. I may not know you, but I also wish you the best.
And this is my pick, by the way, as well. So it will throw to cat next time if we don't reach Revolution of the Daleks by then.
God, yeah.
And I just
good.
wanted to ask very quickly, do you want to announcement about being the...
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I actually do have something to plug of a sort.
Mm-hmm.
So, believe it or not, I've been counting up the number of podcasts we've been doing. And from Deep Breath, the start of Series 8, this is our 95th edition of the podcast.
Jesus Christ, we've done so much of this.
In 5 episodes' time, we hit the big 100. And we're going to do something special I can announce today for that big 100th episode.
Yeah.
I'm not going to reveal what it's about yet, but I will reveal there are plans to do it live.
Yep.
We're going to stream live on Twitch our 100th episode.
We're all going to be Twitch superstars.
And it might be at the tail end of December. Well, it won't be December, actually, because we're 5 to go.
It'll be in January.
Most likely in January. I don't know the exact time, because obviously with Christmas, things can get moved around.
Through January. I did the math on this. It'll be about midway through
and
January.
And there may be delays to, say, Terminus and others because of things going on for Christmas festivities. But, yeah, I just think it's a good idea to mark the big milestone with something special.
Yep.
So,
now, just a warning to everybody about this, because it will be live. That means that there are going to be times where we may flub lines, we may, go off for a moment or so. So
you might hear some of this.
Raw audio. Yes,
there will be an edited version.
oh shit! Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
There will be an edited version a few days after we do the live broadcast.
Yeah.
But the live version of it,
extremely candid.
Yeah, you'll have to remind me not to do 3, 2, 1 and retakes and things like that. But I just figured we owed it to ourselves,
because it's just who we are.
Yeah, we owed it to ourselves, and we owed it to our the people that have listened to us for all those years. 6 years.
This is, in fact, the 5th time we've had to do this.
Nice.
God.
But yeah, we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to them to really, push the boat out just a little bit. So yeah, looking forward to it, and I will put up a tweet on our official Twitter, just promoting this and letting people know that it's going to go ahead. And our official Twitter is, of course, @ReviewsDoctor.
Don't forget individual Twitter.
And our individual Twitters are @ReniacTheManiac, @FreezyInferno, @twitch.tv/ConcaveUsurper. No, @ConcaveUsurper. @ConcaveUsurper. If you put the other one URL in, you'll get something else. But
and if you'd like to get in contact with us via email, or just say hello, please feel free to email at goexterminateyourself@gmail.com.
I promise you that's a real email address.
Email yet.
That's still a real email address.
Yep, it really is real. I can check it every so often.
I think people think it's a bit, but I can assure you it's not a bit.
It's real.
It's not a bit. If anybody has any questions, ask Mike. He actually sent me an email once.
If you send us a message, it will get to us.
Yep.
And all that remains is to thank my two lovely co-hosts, Brainiac, and Kat for joining me for the Silence Arc discussion. Hope you had a good one. We will see you next week. I won't be in this hot seat, but Brainiac will, as we'll discuss the Peter Davison classic Terminus, as requested by the lovely Christina. So, thank you to the two guests. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Firstly, to my virtual left.
Oh, I get it.
It's Freezing Inferno.
Silence.